My name is Sam Robbins and I use she, her pronouns. I noticed that I've had several classes with many of you already, so I'm looking forward to experiencing learning with you again and getting to know some of the new folks. So I grew up in southern New Jersey by the shore, and I went to undergrad in DC. And then once I graduated with my BA in psychology, I went back to southern New Jersey and ended up working all across the state in power-based violence prevention and crisis advocacy. And I'm now living in Pennsylvania, just outside of Philadelphia. The most common mental health diagnosis that I've worked with is complex PTSD, because I've been working with survivors of domestic violence, sexual violence, and human trafficking. Before that, when I was in my undergrad, I had an internship with a suicide prevention nonprofit, and we did a lot of training around suicidal ideation, depressive disorders, and anxiety disorders. While the aforementioned is the most prevalent in the trauma and crisis care, I also have experience supporting people with different mood disorders, personality disorders, disordered eating, substance misuse, and I specifically worked in my last position to create learning materials and classroom spaces that were more accessible and had accommodations to train people with all different neurodevelopmental growth. I believe that people should receive mental health diagnosis with their consent. That no one should be walking around and just pointing fingers and diagnosing people. I see that as very problematic in the media as well. Looking at celebrities or people who've gotten into the public eye, and the court of society looks at them and says, oh, they have this XYZ thing according to the DSM. I think without actually knowing someone and hearing background on their life, it's very inappropriate to do that. Just for a start, into unethical as well. So I think mental diagnosis with someone's consent, that they're seeking care and support. I think that diagnosis can be liberating and validating for some. So if someone's been struggling and they're trying to figure out why and get appropriate support and treatment, and they go and seek diagnosis, that could be really helpful and validating to hear, like, oh, this is something that's not just me, that it's happening to other people, and that there's research that can support me in it. On the flip side of that, I also recognize that diagnosis can be very scary, especially when there is so much public stigma around it. With that said, my involvement with actually diagnosing people, as I'm not a clinician, is really only if a survivor or individual consents to me sharing my observations with the clinician when it's been asked for. Otherwise, I'm really looking forward to diving more into the DSM and all the different ways that it could be better. And I've already looked into this and I find it super helpful. So looking forward to exploring more with all of you.